Hey you guys, so today I'm actually in a different location. As you can see, I'm sitting at my dad's computer, which is where I play like video games and stuff. So you'll see a lot of this background if I'm playing games on the channel. Before I start this video, I just want to thank every single person who watched my Resident Evil 2 reaction video. That video blew up like I've never seen any video blow up like that ever. So I uploaded it 3 days ago and it's almost got 300 views. On the first night it had about 30 views when I went to bed, and then, which was a lot because like most of my videos have about 10 views and they've been uploaded for weeks, but when I went to bed I had about 30 views. And I woke up and I had about 130 views. So I just wanted to thank everybody for watching that video. I can't believe how many people watched it. I think it's so crazy. And just to kind of thank you for watching that video and to thank any subscribers who came from that video, I wanted to make another Resident Evil video because I adore that franchise. But for today's video, I'm just going to be listing, ranking, I don't really know how you would say it, ordering my top favourite Resident Evil games. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I actually have 14 games on my list. I'm aware that there is more games in the Resident Evil franchise than just the 14 that I'm going to mention, but the 14 games I'm mentioning are the games that I have played. So at number 14 are the games, and I've put these two games together, Resident Evil Outbreak and Outbreak File 2, which I believe were made for the PlayStation 2. The reason that these are my least favourite Resident Evil games is because of the fact, in my mind, even though it's set in Raccoon City, not having the characters that we all know and love in this game, it really put it off for me. Playing as these new characters that I wasn't aware about, I couldn't really get into the storyline. I did not make use of the online multiplayer function. I kind of wonder if I did make use of that, then it would have been different. I know a lot of people share the same opinion with me that Outbreak isn't one of the best Resident Evil games. I used to think, and I still do think, that Outbreak is a completely different style of Resident Evil. They just kind of branded it as Resident Evil, but it's not really a true Resident Evil game, other than it being set in Raccoon City and having zombies in. At number 13 I have put Umbrella Chronicles, and I'm actually looking at my list now and I'm very surprised that I put this game so low down. Now, I played Umbrella Chronicles for the Nintendo Wii so many times growing up. It was like the best, and I used to play it all of the time before Darkside Chronicles came out, when it kind of overtook Umbrella Chronicles. But if you're not already aware, Umbrella Chronicles is a game where your character, you can't move your character, it kind of follows a route around the gameplay. It like has its own pathway, you can't move around, you have your gun and you shoot enemies. It's kind of like an arcade game. But yeah, that's at number 13 on the list, just because since new Resident Evil games have been getting released, it's kind of just getting pushed down. I enjoy the campaign. As a child I was far too scared to play like the original Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 0. I was too scared to play those games. The tank controls terrified me the most. Like the fact I couldn't control the way I intended to with tank controls, like they were so difficult for my mind to like comprehend. It just, that scared me more than the zombies or the monsters in Resident Evil. The tank controls, honestly terrifying. So playing Umbrella Chronicles, getting that storyline, feeling like I've had a play of the original games, I really liked that when I was younger. But as growing up and as I've been playing it more, I'm not a fan. Like I was watching my brother play it, a few weeks ago, and I was just like, it's a bit meh really. But anyways, that leads us on to number 12, which is Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. This would be an amazing game, and I've seen a lot of playthroughs on YouTube and it gets me so excited seeing Leon and Claire and Sherry in it, and even Jill Valentine and Nemesis. Seeing those characters in the game, they make me so happy because I love those characters and we all love those characters. But the fact we're playing as Hunk, and I like the idea that Umbrella, or you're kind of playing as Umbrella, and they're seen, although being the antagonists in the other game, you get a different side of the story in Operation Raccoon City. But Hunk for me is a very overrated character. He's kind of the Boba Fett of Resident Evil. And I just think that Operation Raccoon City was kind of fan service. It was a game built for the people who really like Hunk, and me not being one of those people makes it so far down on that list. Number 11 on the list is controversial, but it's Resident Evil 7. This is probably my least favourite game out of the main franchise, just because arguably is it even part of the main franchise. Resident Evil 7 set in an alternate universe. I'm sure I heard that Capcom actually say that Resident Evil 7 is the new universe that the Resident Evil games post 7 will be set in. Not in my mind, it's not. The Resident Evil 7 is like a standalone game in its own universe, similar to Outbreak. It's not even Resident Evil to me, it's really not. It's like a Silent Hill kind of Outlast game where it's like first person and you're in like a house. I don't know, it's not very Resident Evil to me, and I know that Resident Evil 1 was meant to be first person, but it wasn't, was it? So Resident Evil 7, although I like the gameplay, I got excited when we had that cameo at the end. I would have been more excited if we actually got the real Chris Redfield. If you're not already aware, Chris Redfield actually appears at the end of Resident Evil 7 as a cameo, but it does not look like him at all. So Capcom, I don't really know what they were doing, but whatever. Number 10 on my list will be highly controversial. I know this game is a lot of people's favourites just because I guess it came out not long after the DualShock controller came out for PlayStation 2. I'm not entirely sure about my timeline, like it was before I was born I think, but Resident Evil 3 is at number 10 on my list. I have played Resident Evil 3, I've watched playthroughs of Resident Evil 3. I haven't actually completed it, but I have played it and watched people complete it. Nemesis terrifies me so much, but still I think it's the tank controls which put me off from this game. To me, the storyline of this game isn't anything special. We have Jill Valentine, who I love, but that's really all we have. Like, we don't have Chris or Leon or Claire or anybody like that. We have Jill and she's trying to escape Raccoon City and there's a big tyrant chasing after her. It's a cool concept, but I just don't really dig the storyline. At number 9 we have Resident Evil Revelations 1. So I first played this game on the Nintendo 3DS when it first came out, and I liked it. I liked playing it on the DS. I was hyped because the boss baddie in the game was called Rachel, and that's my name. Revelations 1 was really cool when it came out. It was very difficult. The boss baddie at the end is arguably one of the hardest boss baddies in Resident Evil history. I'll insert some clips of gameplay that I find on YouTube of from the different games, but oh god, that boss was so difficult. And the reason I ranked Revelations 1 at number 9 on my list, because although I enjoyed the gameplay and it has Chris Redfield in it, it has Jill Valentine in it, I like the idea of it being on a boat, primarily set on a boat. Really, there's a lot more games that I prefer than that game. Revelations 1, the gameplay becomes kind of a bit stale after the first 3 or 4 playthroughs. I have completed the games, and actually I think all of the games on this list, apart from the first 2, I have played. So I have played Revelations 1 and I just think the gameplay became quite boring after playing it. At number 8 I have put Resident Evil 6, again a controversial opinion. I know that Resident Evil 6 would be at the very bottom of a lot of people's lists, but Resident Evil 6 came out in 2013 I believe, and I remember when it came out, and I remember I got ResidentEvil.net straight away, and I got it so fast I was able to claim the username Sherry Burke, and it was this whole deal. But Resident Evil 6 is a massive crossover game where all the characters, so we have Leon Kennedy crosses over with Chris Redfield, and Leon crosses over with Sherry Birkin, and characters from different games that we thought we would never ever see together came together. Chris and Leon, when they first actually met in Resident Evil 6, was the most exciting thing ever. When Leon reunites with Sherry, and the last time we saw Sherry was when she was like a 12-year-old little girl in Raccoon City with Claire. Like, seeing that in a game was amazing for me. And I play Resident Evil for the storyline.
Chris? Leon!
Sherry Birkin, National Security.
Sherry Birkin, you were in Raccoon City.
How do you know that?
Claire.
Wait, are you Chris?
My sisters told me all about you.
And the gameplay not really being a Resident Evil kind of game, I could kind of deal with it because I was on edge a lot of the time to see what happens next. And I think a lot of the baddies in Resident Evil 6 are cool. Not the zombies, but I really like Ustanank, I think that's how you say his name. And Simmons, I think, is a good, cool baddie. So that is why Resident Evil 6 is at number 8 on my list. Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles is at number 7 on my list. So there was 2 games released for the Wii and also the PlayStation 3, which were Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles. And Umbrella Chronicles followed Resident Evil 1, 0 and 3, whereas Darkside Chronicles followed Resident Evil 2, Code Veronica, and they also had a storyline about Leon, Kennedy and Krauser, how they have a history together, and they reference that history in Resident Evil 4, and they kind of spoke about that in Darkside Chronicles. So the reason why this game is at number 7 on my list, I played it a lot, and unlike Umbrella Chronicles, I played it a lot and I enjoyed it. Every single playthrough I had, I completed that game so many times with like A's and S's results, I'm certain of it. The different costumes are great. The character design is beautiful. The characters are beautiful in Darkside Chronicles without a doubt. The graphics are maybe the most gorgeous graphics I've ever seen in a Resident Evil game. I just really like Darkside Chronicles, and I'm actually surprised. I'm looking at my list now and I'm surprised I've put it at number 7. I can kind of see why, but I adore Darkside Chronicles, and if you're new to the Resident Evil franchise and you don't really want to play a full game, you would rather just get a grip of the storyline, I would totally recommend Darkside Chronicles and Umbrella Chronicles. They are such good games. And if you didn't already know, Leon and Claire are my favourite characters, so the fact there is so much Claire Redfield gameplay in Darkside Chronicles, I love that so much. So at number 6 on my list is Resident Evil Revelations 2. This is at number 6 because, well, of many reasons really. The gameplay of Revelations 2 itself, I liked it. I liked the storyline. I liked episode 1 with Claire. Episode 1 with Claire like scared me so much. I think the idea of being in like a hospital, was it like a mental hospital, like an abandoned asylum kind of thing? That whole idea terrified me. The baddies in Revelations 2, so scary. I really like that game, but what really makes it stand out compared to Revelations 1 and the previous games I mentioned was that Revelations 2 had a feature in the game called Raid Mode, which me and my dad and my brother would play all of the time. Honestly, we got more hours of playing that than the actual game itself. So the reason Resident Evil Revelations 2 is so high on this list, I think it's because of that, and also the Claire gameplay. I love Claire so much. And there's also another ambitious crossover with Claire Redfield and Barry Burton. It's this whole crazy thing, really. Sorry if the camera angle or anything's just changed. I just went downstairs to eat. So number 5 on my list is Resident Evil 1 Remake. I should probably mention now that I didn't actually put Resident Evil 1 on this list because I've only ever played Director's Cut. I think it's a brilliant game for speedrunning. I'm a speedrunner when I play Resident Evil. I've completed it. My dad like completed it like crazy. He completed the invisible enemy mode and all the different modes and different difficulties. And he actually unlocked, and I'll put a picture in now, he actually unlocked this like postcard from Capcom, and Capcom were like, wow, thanks for playing. You are literally like one of the best Resident Evil players ever. And then the card had Chris and Jill on it, and it was like really romantic and cool and had like kisses on. Anyways, you'll see in the picture. I'm just really glad they remade the original Resident Evil 1. I was actually able to play it and complete it because there was alternate controls, so I didn't have to use the tank controls. Resident Evil 1 Remake, there's just so much there's so much to say about it. And without rambling, all I'm going to say is that you need to play it. Like, it's such a good game. Number 4 on my list is Resident Evil 5. So this is the game that I have probably played the most. It's the game that really got me into liking Resident Evil. So I remember when this game came out, and it was like 2009 Christmas time, and I used to sit and watch my dad play it, and I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed with Chris Redfield, Wesker, Sheva, like learning about all of the characters, Ouroboros. The gameplay was great, the storyline was great with Jill Valentine in it. The DLC for Resident Evil 5 is one of the best DLCs that have ever been created in Resident Evil games. The gold edition, which isn't even that expensive now, like I feel like you can buy the Resident Evil 5 gold edition for about £10, which includes not only the game and all of the stuff that comes with the game, like mercenaries, but you can also get Mercenaries Reunion, Versus Mode, Lost in Nightmares, Desperate Escape, extra figures. Like, you can get so much with that game, extra outfits, costumes. At number 3 on my list is Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 for a lot of people is their favourite Resident Evil game. It follows Leon Kennedy, and he is out in Spain trying to rescue the president's daughter from this evil guy who's called Sadler, and he kidnaps the president's daughter Ashley, and Leon from Resident Evil 2, who's now a secret agent that works for the government, has to find her and rescue her and bring her back to America. And it's such a good game. I love the different locations of the game. So the game starts out in a village, and then you move to like a church, and then you go to the mines, and then you go to a castle, and then you go to an island. Like, the game is so big, and it has Ada Wong in it, and it has Krauser in it, and I adore Resident Evil 4. Truthfully, I feel like Resident Evil 5, 4 and then the next 2 games, they could be interchanged depending on my mood. But right now Resident Evil 4 is at number 3 on my list. It's a good game. I really couldn't say a bad thing about Resident Evil 4. Number 2 on my list is Resident Evil Code Veronica. And I've played Code Veronica. It is definitely the hardest Resident Evil game. It's probably the biggest Resident Evil game. Code Veronica, or Code Veronica X. There is so much I enjoy about that game. I enjoy the relationship dynamic between Alexia Ashford and Alfred Ashford. They are the Ashford twins, and they are the villains of the game, especially Alexia. She's like the main baddie of Code Veronica. I like the idea how it's set just immediately after Resident Evil 2. So Claire, who you play as, has gone her separate ways. She fails in Resident Evil 2 to find her lost brother Chris Redfield, and then in Resident Evil Code Veronica they actually reunite, and it's brilliant. It introduces characters like Steve Burnside, who is slightly annoying, but I really have a soft spot for him and Claire. I really like them. It has Wesker and Chris, and it has Claire gameplay and Chris gameplay, and someone who really likes family themes in movies and video games and any kind of media really. I really like it because I think the idea of playing as Claire and Chris was long overdue before Resident Evil Code Veronica came out in 2001. And finally, number 1 on my list is of course Resident Evil 2. Now I was elated, not even elated, more like ecstatic when I found out that they were remaking the original Resident Evil 2 video game. Resident Evil 2 is a masterpiece. It was released for PlayStation 2, I believe, in 1998, I want to say, and it follows the storyline of Claire Redfield looking for her lost brother Chris Redfield in Raccoon City that has been dilapidated and ridden with zombies. There's also a storyline following Leon Kennedy, who was a rookie cop, and it's his first day on the job, and he goes into the town, goes in to start work, and basically the town is completely zombie infested and he has to fight for survival. And most of the game is set in the police station where you play as either Leon and Claire, it's your choice. And they have their own unique different storylines. So, you know, Leon will meet like Ada and he will accompany him for like a lot of his journey, and then same goes for Claire meeting Sherry Birkin, and it's just such a good game, and I can't wait for the remake. Like, I really can't stress how much I'm so excited for the remake. But yeah guys, that was my list for my top 14 favourite Resident Evil games. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Leave what your favourite Resident Evil games are in the comment section below. I'd love to know. And thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.